Hello my dear students. Today in this video we are going to discuss about the instruction set architectures. The instruction set architecture, often abbreviated as ISA, is an abstract model of a computer. This ISA serves as the boundary between the software and the hardware. Since it serves as the interface between this hardware and the software, it should make both the hardware designer as well as the software designers happy. That is, the hardware should be easy to implement and it should be easy to generate the good code also. The 7 dimensions of an instruction set architecture are classes of ISA, memory addressing, addressing modes, types and size of operands, operations, control flow instructions, and encoding. Let us look into these 7 dimensions in detail. First, let us look into the classes of ISA. Two broadly used classes are register memory ISA and load store ISA. The register memory ISA is an instruction set architecture which allows the operations to be performed on or from memory as well as registers. So, it allows the operations to be performed both on memory as well as registers. So, in this approach, one of the operands, for example, the addition operation may be in memory while the other is in a register. The examples which belongs to this register memory ISA, they are Intel x86 and IBM's System 360. The second type of ISA is load store ISA. In this instruction set architecture, it can access the memory only using load or store instructions. So this ISA divides the instructions into two categories: memory access and ALU operations. Memory access: to access the memory, load and store instructions are used to transfer the data between the memory and the registers. And to perform this ALU operations, the operands should be in the registers. Okay. ARM and MIPS belongs to load store ISA architecture. All the recent ISAs are load store. The Intel's x86 has 16 general purpose registers and 16 floating point registers, whereas this MIPS, which belongs to the load store ISA, has 32 general purpose and 32 floating point registers. Second dimension is memory addressing. Virtually all the desktop and server computers, including the Intel's x86, ARM and MIPS, uses byte addressing for accessing the memory operands. So why we are moving for this byte addressing? So as we know, it is not practical to assign distinct addresses to individual bit locations in the memory. So the most practical assignment is to have successive addresses refer to successive byte locations in the memory. And this concept is called byte addressable memory. So what is this byte addressability? The successive addresses refers to successive byte locations in the memory. So the byte locations have the addresses 0, 1, 2, etc. So if word length is 32 bits, then the successive words are located at addresses 0, 4, 8, etc. with each word consisting of 4 bytes. Since the word length is 32 bits, then the successive words will be at the addresses of multiples of 4. That is, it will be in the addresses 0, 4, 8, 12, etc. because each word consists of 4 bytes. Okay. The terms Little Indian and Big Indian describe two formats of ordering the addresses that computers can use to store the integers in a sequence of bytes. Now let's discuss about this big Indian and little Indian byte addressing concept. To represent a 32-bit word, we need to have 4 bytes, right? 4 into 8 is equal to 32. So to represent a 32-bit word, we need to have 4 bytes. Okay, and the successive words are stored in the locations which is in the multiples of 4, 0, 4, 8, 12, 16, etc. Okay, so as we said, to represent a word, we need 4 byte locations. Okay, so the leftmost bit of a word is its most significant byte, and the rightmost bit is the least significant byte. Okay. If you are using the lower byte addresses for the most significant byte, then it is called the big Indian byte order. Okay. So the first 4 bytes 0, 1, 2, 3. So among this, if you are using this lower byte, the lower byte that is the 0, if you are using this lower byte address for representing the MSB of a word, then it is called big Indian byte order. Okay. Whereas the least significant byte of the data is placed at the lowest address, then it is called little Indian byte order. Okay, so that is the least significant byte will be having the lowest address. The least is, this is the least significant byte position, and this is the MSB byte position. The lower byte address is used for representing the least significant byte, then it is called little Indian. If the lower byte addresses are representing the most significant byte, then it is called the big Indian assignment. This MIPS is a big Indian byte addressing computer. Let's look at an example. We are given with a 32-bit word length. Okay, so this 32-bit word can be stored in 4 bytes. Okay, so 6573A429. This is the word. This 29 represents the least significant byte. A473 and 65 is the most significant byte. Okay, if the lower addresses are used for representing the least significant byte, then it is called the little Indian format. That is, the 29 is represented by the lower byte address. The lower byte address is 0. So the lower byte address represents the least significant byte. Then, so in the address 0, we are storing the 29. Then in the address 1, we are storing the next byte, that is A4. Then in 2, 73, and in 3, we are storing the 65. Okay, so we store the data 1 using this little Indian format. The least significant byte is use this lower byte address. Okay, another example, 95 6D A442. The lower byte address is used for representing the lower byte, that is the little Indian. 42 is represented by the 4. Then AF in the 5, 6D in the address 6, and in the most significant byte 95 is stored in the address 7. So this is the case of little Indian format. Okay, the same thing, let us look into this big Indian format. In the case of big Indian, this lower byte address is stored in the MSB part. That is, the most significant byte will be having the lower byte address. The most significant byte will be having the lower byte address. So 65, 73, A429. Then another second example, 95, 60, A442. The lower or the most significant byte will be having the lower address. Among this 4, 5, 6, 7, the lower address is 4. So the address 4 will be having the most significant byte. So that is the case of big Indian format. Let's look into the third dimension, of ISA, that is addressing modes. In addition to specifying the registers and constant operands, addressing modes specify the address of a memory object. MIPS addressing modes are register, immediate, and displacement, where a constant offset is added to register to form the memory address. The 8086 supports those three plus three more variations of displacement, that is no register, which is called as absolute, then two registers based on indexed with displacement, and two registers where one register is multiplied by the size of the operand in bytes. Okay, now let's discuss about the fourth dimension, that's types and size of operands. Like most instruction set architectures, Intel x86, ARM and MIPS supports the operand sizes of 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit and 32-bit single precision and double precision format for the floating point numbers. The number of operands is one of the factors that may give an indication about the performance of the instruction set. If we are having three operands in an instruction, then it is called a three operand architecture. So a three operand architecture will allow A is equal to B plus C to be computed in one instruction, because in a single instruction itself it supports three operands. Fine. A two-operand architecture will allow A is equal to A plus B to be computed in one instruction. So, two instructions will need to be executed to simulate a single three-operand instruction. That is, A is equal to B, then A is equal to A plus C. So, if you want to perform A is equal to B plus C using a two-operand architecture, then we need to have two instructions. First, we need to assign the value of B to the variable A, then add that one with to the C and then store it in the A. Okay, so we'll be having the two instructions as A is equal to B and A is equal to A plus C. So based on the number of operands, we can have a three operand architecture and a two operand architecture. Now let's move on to the fifth dimension, that is the operations. The instructions or the operations to be performed in a computer should include the data transfer instructions, data manipulation instructions, program sequencing and control instructions, input and output instructions. The data transfer instructions perform the data transfer between the various storage places in the computer system. That is, between the registers or to and from the memory and input-output devices. Okay. Then the data manipulation instructions perform operations that can be arithmetic, logical, or shift operations. Sequencing and control instructions help you change the flow of the program. So we can change the flow of the program by using this control or sequencing instructions. The input and output instructions are used for transferring the information between the registers, memory and the IO devices. So a computer must have these four types of instructions. Okay, now let's discuss about the sixth dimension, that is the control flow instructions. These instructions actually controls the flow of instruction execution. Normally, the instructions are executed in sequence order, right? That is, the instructions which are stored in the successive memory locations will be executed. So instead of that, if you want to jump to another location, we can do that one with the help of this control flow instructions. The Intel x86, ARM and MIPS, all these three instruction set architectures supports conditional and unconditional branches, procedure calls and returns. All these three also supports the program counter relative addressing, where the branch address is specified by an address field which is added to the content of the PC. So the address is related to the content of the PC. So that one is also, this PC relative addressing is also supported by all these three instruction set architectures. MIPS conditional branches like branch if equal, branch if not equal, etc. test the contents of flag registers, while the Intel x86 and ARM branches test condition code bits set as side effects of arithmetic or logic operations. So this MIPS check the content of the flag registers before the conditional branching, whereas the x86 and ARM checks the condition code bits which are set as part of this arithmetic and logic operations. Okay. The ARM and MIPS procedure call places the return addresses in a register, whereas the Intel x86 places the return address on a stack in memory. So the ARM and MIPS ISA, the procedure call places the return addresses in register, whereas the Intel 86 places the return addresses on a stack in memory. Okay, now let's discuss about the seventh dimension, that is encoding and instruction set architecture. Two types of encoding are there: fixed length encoding and variable length encoding. First, let us discuss about the fixed length encoding. In this type of encoding, every computer instruction is represented using the same number of bytes. All ARM and MIPS instructions are 4 bytes long. Because each instruction is of same length, the bytes required to increase to get the next instruction is not. Okay, so if the first instruction address is 0, then what about the starting address of the second instruction? Of course, it will be 4. So it will be in the multiples of 4. Okay, so if you know the address of one instruction, it is easy to find out the address of the next instruction. We know the number of bytes required to increase to get the next instruction address. Computer that uses fixed length computer instruction do not have complex computer instruction. Such a computer is called reduced instruction set computer architecture because the complexity of instruction set is reduced. Hence, here all the instructions are of having the same length. The complexity of the instruction is very less, and so the instructions are called as RISC instruction set. RISC stands for reduced instruction set computer architecture. And so here the complexity of the instruction set is reduced. So this is the MIPS 64 instruction set architecture formats. As we already discussed, we'll be having 3 types of instruction format. This R represents the register to register operations. This R format, this register format is for register to register operations. Then this I format is for data transfers, branches and immediate instructions. This I stands for immediate. So this I format is used for data transfers, branches and immediate instructions. And this J format is for jump instructions. Okay. So these are the integer instruction formats. Fine. Now let's look into the floating point instruction format. The FR format for floating point operations and FI is the format for floating point branches. When we look into this instruction format, we can see that every type of instruction is of 32-bit long. Every instruction is having a fixed length. Now let's discuss about the variable length encoding. As the name indicates, we'll be having variable length for instructions. So in variable length instruction encoding, different computer instructions are represented using different number of bytes. There is no constraint on how many bytes are used in encoding the computer instruction. The first instruction, which is a simple operation, requires only 2 bytes. Whereas the second instruction is a complex operation and so it requires more bytes. Here it took 6 bytes. The third instruction took 4 bytes. So there is no constraint on how many bytes are used in encoding. The Intel x86 encoding is variable length ranging from 1 to 18 bytes. Variable length instructions can take less space than fixed length instructions. So a program compiled for the x86 is usually smaller than the program compiled for the MIPS. The MIPS follows the fixed length formatting. Each instruction will be of 4 byte long, whereas this 8086 follows the variable length instruction, which takes less space compared to the fixed length instructions, and so the program compiled for the x86 is usually smaller than the same program compiled for the MIPS. MIPS makes use of fixed length encoding, whereas x86 makes use of variable length encoding. Okay, now let's discuss about the various types of instruction set architectures. The three most common types of instruction set architectures are stack, accumulator, and general purpose register. So in the case of stack, the operands are implicitly on the top of the stack. In the case of accumulator, one of the operand is implicitly the accumulator. GPR or the general purpose register. In this case, all the operands are explicitly mentioned and they are either registers or memory locations. There are two major instruction set characteristics which divides the GPR architectures. So the characteristics are, the first one is based on the number of operands in a single instruction. So if the instruction consists of 3 operands, then it is called as a 3 operand instruction. And if the instruction consists of only 2 operands, then it is a 2 operand instruction architecture. So based on the number of operands, we can have two classifications, a 3 operand instruction architecture and a 2 operand instruction architecture. Fine. Then the next characteristics is the number of the operands that may be memory addressed in a particular instruction. Based on that, we will be having three classifications: register to register, register to memory, and memory to memory. First, let us look into this register to register. So, add R3, R1, R2. Here, all the operands are in the register. So, its meaning is R3 is equal to R1 plus R2. Fine. So, here we are dealing with only the register operands. Fine. Then, the second classification is register memory. That is, one of the operand is register and the other operand is memory. Add R1, A. Its meaning is R1 is equal to R1 plus A. A represents the memory operand. Then the third classification is memory to memory. Here both the operands are in memory. So the instruction add C, A, B. Its meaning is C is equal to A plus B. Here all the operands are memory operands. Okay. The operand locations for different type of ISAs are shown here. The arrows indicate whether the operand is an input or the output from the ALU unit. The lighter shades indicate inputs and the dark shade indicates the result. Okay, fine. Now let's look into the first type of ISA, that is the stack ISA. In the case of stack ISA, the operands are there in the stack itself. So from the top of the stack, the operands are taken and the ALU operations are performed and the result will be stored back onto the register. Okay, moving to the second type of ISA, that is the accumulator ISA. In the case of accumulator ISA, one of the operand is there in the accumulator. So this accumulator can be used for storing the input as well as for storing the temporary results. Okay, so the operand from the accumulator is taken as the first operand and the second operand is taken from the memory. Okay, and after performing the ALU operations, the result is stored back onto the accumulator itself. So that's the case of accumulator ISA. Then the third type of ISA is GPR ISA, where we are having register memory ISA as well as register ISA. First, let us look into the register memory ISA. Here, one of the operand is register and one is in the memory. And the one of the operand is in memory and the one is in the register. And the result goes back to the register. Okay. Then, in the fourth case, that is the register, all the operands are there in the register itself. All the operands are there in the registers. So, after performing the ALU operation, the result is also stored back onto the register. Okay. So, in the case of stack, the operands are explicitly on the top of the stack. Okay, if you are giving the add instruction, it takes the top two elements and added, and the result will be stored in the top of the stack. So, this is actually happens when we are giving a particular instruction using this stack ISA. So here we are giving no addresses for the operands. The operands are explicitly stored in the top of the stack, and so it is called as zero address instruction. Okay. The second type of ISA is accumulator ISA, where one of the operand is there in the accumulator. One of the operand can be implicitly stored in the accumulator. So it can also be called as a one address instruction. Add A means the content of the memory location of A is added with the content of the accumulator and the result will be stored in the accumulator itself. ACC stands for the accumulator. So the content of the A, the memory operand A is added with the content of the accumulator and the result is stored in the accumulator register. So here only one operand is explicitly specified. So only one address is specified and so it is a one address instruction. Okay, now let's look into this GPR. As we already discussed, we'll be having two address instruction and three address instruction. Add A comma B, add A comma B comma C. Add A comma B means A and B is added and the result is stored in the A. Add A comma B comma C means B plus C is added and the result will be stored in the A. So it is a two address and three address. Here we will be giving two addresses, two memory addresses are specified explicitly in the instruction. Okay, now let's look at an example. Describe the code sequence of C is equal to A plus B in different types of ISA. So first let us look into the first type, that is the stack ISA. So in the case of stack, as we know, we'll be having only two operations, push and pop. Push is for inserting and pop indicates the deletion from the top of the stack. Okay, so here we are given with two operands A and B. So first we are pushing the A operand onto the stack using the command push A. Then the second operand B is inserted into the stack using the instruction push B. So the top two contents are the operands A and B. Okay, now we are giving the instruction add. So the top two elements from the stack is taken out and the addition operation is performed by the ALU unit and the result will be stored in the top of the stack itself. Okay, from the top of the stack it will be taken out with the help of the pop instruction and the result will be stored onto the location C. So that's the case of stack ISA. Okay, fine. Moving to the second type of ISA, that is accumulator ISA, where one of the operand is there in the accumulator. Okay, so we are not explicitly specifying the accumulator in the instruction. Okay, so first instruction load A means the operand A is loaded onto the accumulator register. So the meaning of this instruction means accumulator is equal to A. The content of A will be transferred onto the accumulator register. Okay. Now we are giving the instruction add B. Add B means the second operand is A. The second operand is accumulator. So one of the operand is accumulator. So to the content of the accumulator, the B is added and the result is stored back onto the accumulator. So the meaning of this instruction is accumulator is equal to accumulator plus B. Okay, so accumulator already contains the value of A. So it performs the A plus B and the result will be there in the accumulator itself. Okay. From the accumulator, we need to store the result back to the C. So we are using this store instruction. Store C means from the accumulator, the result will be stored back onto the location C. That's the case of accumulator ISA. Okay, moving to the GPR architecture. So as we said, we'll be having two types of GPR, either using the 2 address or using the 3 address. First, let us discuss about the 2 address. So here, the A operand is transferred onto the one of the register R1. Then to the content of R1, the B is added and the result is there in the R1 itself. So from the R1, it is stored back to the register location C. Okay. Then the 3 address instruction. First A is transferred onto the register R1, fine. Then using add R3, R1, B, it means that R1 plus B is performed and the result is stored in the R3. So R3 is equal to R1 plus B. Okay, fine. So now the result is there in the R3. So from the R3, it is moved to the stored back onto the location C. Okay. So in this video, we discussed in detail about the instruction set architectures. Thank you.